What's up? I'm Carmine and I play bass, and today we're going to go over 5 useful tips that you can use to get ready for that live performance that you're freaking out about. Let's go. Today we're going to talk about that live show that's coming up right around the corner. Maybe you didn't have enough time to practice, your band wasn't able to book enough rehearsals, and you just don't feel like you have the music under your fingers. And maybe you struggle with stage fright and get nervous before live performances. Whatever the reason is, if you follow these 5 tips, you'll go into the show feeling a lot more prepared, confident, and relaxed. Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you so much to the new subscribers and everybody leaving comments. I took a little time off from making videos, but I'm trying to come back and make some new ones. I really appreciate all the support. If you're new here, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe to the channel for more bass discussions and videos. Okay, back to live performance. Bass can often feel like a background instrument during a live show. And to be honest, it kind of is. It's easy to overlook your preparation leading into the show. And if you're like me, you sometimes dread live performances and you think about it too much. For years, I would get nervous and I'd overthink it leading up to the show, and it caused me to develop this system where I can prepare and make sure I can go into the show confident and relaxed and ready for anything. After all, confidence is only preparation and experience. The first 4 tips are just going to help you develop muscle memory around the set that you're trying to be prepared for. The last tip is a little quirkier and a little weirder, but we'll get to that later. The first thing I like to do is at the most recent rehearsal that I've had with the band, I will record the entire set straight through on my iPhone. I'll take that home. Naturally, there's going to be time in between, discussion with the band, working out different parts. I cut all of the unnecessary stuff out in a DAW. I use Logic. And then I just get all the tracks next to each other so it's a nice cohesive set. And I try to simulate as close as possible what the set will flow like. I'll play to this recording, but I'll also listen to this recording quite a bit. I feel it helps a lot to listen to what you did at rehearsal, like studying game tape in a sport. And at the same time, it's the perfect imperfect way to perform to what you guys just went over as a band. The more you internalize this music by listening and playing to it, the more comfortable you're going to be and the less thinking you have to do when you're on stage. And that's really the goal for me. Think as little as possible and just play. A couple of notes on this tip. Something I like to do is cut out most of the low end from the rehearsal, an EQ in my DAW, so that when I'm playing bass, it doesn't clash too much with what I played during the rehearsal. Another thing I like to do is I do a handful of run-throughs with headphones on and listen really closely for detail and try to be a little more tuned in to the fine detail. And then at a certain point, I will just play to it out loud to better simulate the live experience so I could hear what the band's doing out loud and then hear what I'm doing out loud. It's just more realistic that way. The real challenge with this method will be naturally there's going to be variability in human beings playing at a rehearsal. So you don't want to get too locked into the specific way you played it because it will vary a little bit. But I feel like you'll be better prepared adjusting to that live performance than just playing to a click track or the recorded version of the song. That variability will help you be prepared on stage. The next thing I'll do, and this is if all the music you're playing to is already recorded and released, whether it's original stuff or covers, I'll create a Spotify playlist or a playlist on whatever music streaming service you use, and I'll order it in order of the set list. I'll play to more specifically what was done in the recording and really focus on tone. I really like to hone in on the detail and try to get as specific as possible, matching the tone and discovering maybe some other things that the song needs that it doesn't have in the recording. I'll essentially just do what I did with the live performance, except this time to a more controlled recording of the song. I'll just rinse and repeat and go through this version of the set list as well. Riding around my 16th season with no scholarship. Sunshine hits through the window, I'm in astonishment. Write the song straight off of the cuff, know what the problem is. Write the shit, I'm calling you bluff, I got a problem, kid. I couldn't help but do what they told me. I ate up all the lies that they sold me. Bad memories made me act like the old me. Too many variables to control me. I like these two things working in conjunction, the live rehearsal playing and the Spotify playlist playing, because they're slightly different. One's a little more perfect, one's a little more haphazard. And if you're prepared for those two options, you're going to land somewhere in between for the live show, which is just going to happen anyway. Remember, tone is mostly in your fingers when you're playing. So this can really help you focus on that fine detail and develop what your tone will be and what your tone should be according to each track and the way that it was written.
Just why not do what I want to? I need 6 notebooks and beats pronto. Walking through this downpour so with no poncho. Imagine sleeping on my music, how could you not know?
Sometime after the last rehearsal and before I start shedding at home, I'll work to a loop that's either in the key of the song, in the key in the same tempo, or reminiscent of the song enough, just a very generic chord changes from a guitar or keyboard, whatever elements are in the song you're playing to. I'll loop those up in a DAW and I'll work to that. And I'll just focus on bass lines and aspects of the song that I'm struggling with. I'll run it over and over again and really make sure that I'm strengthening whatever parts are weaknesses at the moment. The cool thing about this is you can mess around with the tempo a little bit. So the next step would be to work at faster and faster variations of this at higher tempos. And slower and slower. I'm a big believer in training your brain to understand the bass line and what you're playing in different contexts. I think that helps it stick more than anything. Also, while preparing for live performances, this can really help when the inevitable happens and your drummer plays the song 10 BPM faster because everyone's adrenaline's pumping and you're excited. It's gonna happen and you need to be ready for it. The fourth tip is very simple. It's just playing bass from a distance. This helps you get a different context of what you're hearing while you're playing the bass. The audience members aren't standing right in front of the bass amp the way you are, especially not with their back turned. So what I like to do is move further away from the audio source. Whether I'm playing to a playlist or whether I'm playing to the rehearsal itself, I play everything out loud. I'll get the longest cable that I have, and I'll walk further away from the audio source. At this point, I'll make sure I'm standing. That's a big aspect of this as well. Not just practicing sitting down like I am now, but standing up and really simulating what you'll be doing during the show. I'll go further away from the audio source, and I'll play through a song or the whole set, and I'll listen. I'll really focus on listening what I'm hearing at a distance. It's very different when you're in headphones or you're really close to the monitors and you hear everything perfectly right in front of you. At a show, as we all know, or maybe you don't know yet, it's very hard to hear yourself when the drums are live and mic'd up and loud, the crowd's making noise, hopefully, and everything's just less controlled than what you're used to. I find standing on the other side of the room and listening to what I'm playing while I'm playing it to be the closest thing that I've been able to find to a rehearsal. If you're playing by yourself, this is a must-do. Once again, the more context you can put yourself in before the show, the better. Real quick, I brushed over it earlier in tip number 4, but make sure you're doing enough practicing standing up. Most of the time, you're going to be standing up at a live performance. If you're sitting, then I guess it's fine to sit while you practice. I mean, I sit and practice all the time. When I'm preparing for a live show, I make sure that I get a lot of reps in while standing because you're going to be up there standing for 30 minutes to an hour. And it's a totally different physicality than when you're just sitting and practicing. Which leads us to our next tip. Okay, this is the weirdest one. So for this tip, we're going to focus just on your heart rate. When you play at a live show, you get very excited. There's more pressure. There's many different factors that are not here in your studio, especially if you're dealing with nerves, anxiety, or stage fright leading up to the show and during the show. What I've noticed is that live performances or even in front of certain people in high stakes situations in the studio, your hands tend to tense up a little bit. Your heart rate's probably 10 to 12 BPM faster than it normally is when you're calm and when you're practicing at home, and everything gets tight. You get to work at maybe 75, 80% of the capacity that you normally do. You have to be prepared for this feeling because it can make you feel incapable of the way you've been practicing the whole time leading up to the show. Something I do is I essentially superset or combine a small calisthenic workout or push-ups or jogging in place, whatever you can do in your area, in your studio, and I'll do that for 30 seconds to a minute to raise my heart rate. Then I'll make sure my bass was already set up before, I run back over to it, and while my heart rate's up, I play through the song. I'll rinse and repeat this process for every song throughout the set. This has got me so comfortable and used to playing in a more physical way. When you're playing live, it's a whole physical act. It's like playing a sport. And it's not just because you're standing and moving around on stage, but also because your heart rate's elevated because the circumstances are different. The pressure's on. Trust me, I know it sounds weird, but give it a try. It's so helpful. I know a lot of vocalists who have done this for training their lung capacity and being able to hit notes while moving around on stage. It's a really good practice and a really good routine to get into. And once you start doing it, you'll notice that when you're on stage and you're feeling a little bit of pressure, you're like, I've been here before. I do this every day leading up to the show. This is no problem. This helps a lot when you practice in front of someone as well. I feel like it does a similar thing. So you don't have to do a calisthenic workout in front of that person if you don't want to. You would just essentially get one of your friends, get a family member, anybody that's near you, and say, hey, can I play a couple songs in front of you real quick? Can you tell me what you think? And their opinion and perspective can help, hopefully, but also knowing that you're playing in front of someone who's actively thinking about what you're playing or judging or making assumptions about what you're playing, it helps a lot because the show is hopefully going to be 50 to 100 to 200 to 2,000 of those people in the audience. And if you're able to start with just 1 or 2 or 3 people around, it's the best way to simulate that feeling. It's really something you can get over by just practicing in front of someone whose opinion you care about. It's very easy to underestimate the physicality needed and the preparation physically you need to have for live performance, but I can assure you it's one of the best practices to get used to, and it will really help you. So if you give it a try, please let me know in the comments if that helps at all. I find it's really helped me. That's the 5 tips for today. Thanks so much for watching. I wish you the best of luck at your show coming up. Thank you to all the subscribers and people commenting. If you like what you see, please leave a comment. Let me know any ideas I can try in the future for new videos. Subscribe, like the video, and remember, you don't have to be the fastest or the best bass player in the world. You just have to be funky. Peace.